Good afternoon, everyone. It's time for Farmer Hacks. It's like one of my favorite things. We're going to find out what people are doing right now to be innovative and to help themselves be creative. And some of the producers we have today are part of my mentorship program, not my, Oak's mentorship program. So we are super excited to have the panelists that we have today that are going to share all of their innovation with you. To start, we will lead in with Jacqueline Berry from Flourishing Herbs Farm, then Dusty Gossett from Gossett's Farm, Ken Marks from Floyd's View Farm, and Jackson Rolett from Apostles Garden. So right now, we'll just go ahead and, Jacqueline, if you want to come on up, let's get the ball rolling.
Talk right here. Okay. Hello, I'm Jacqueline Berry from Flourishing Herbs. I'm Jacqueline Berry from Flourishing Herbs, Produce and Flowers, and I'm here to talk to you about the Panda spinner that we use for our greens. We're a small farm located in Allen County, just south of Scottsville. We're about 4 miles from the Tennessee line. And we have CSA, farmers markets, and participate in food bank programs in our county of Allen County, Warren County, and Barron County. And in season, we can spin up to 50 pounds of greens. Lettuce is our #1 seller. We're certified organic, and we have 2 scopes. We're certified organic growers and processor handlers. And this is a picture of our lettuce and carrots. And our recent state inspection for food safety involved a lot of focus on our spinner. We did go through Cultivate Kentucky for a food safety plan, and we had a readiness review prior to the actual inspection. When I first started out, I was just doing a little bit of greens at a time, and it's very frustrating. I definitely need to do some improvement. So I considered a commercial spinner, and at the price of $3,000, it was a little bit out of my league at the time. Since then, NeverSink Tools has come up with a 10-gallon green spinner, a little bit more reasonable price for $1,800. Another alternative would be a wash machine spinner. Some of you may be familiar with this, where you take a washing machine and convert it to just the spin cycle, and then you put a food-safe basket in it and spin your greens. But that was a little bit too large for our wash pack area. But we did get a grant through Kentucky State University and purchased a commercial spinner from Johnny Select Seeds. At the time, it was $500, and which seemed a lot better than that $3,000. And right now, they're running about $700. But it didn't really work for us. We ended up respinning the greens. They were coming out wet. It has a center agitator. It was hard to level the greens around that. And then we were picking greens out of it, and it didn't work for us. Here's a picture of a hand crank model, and so you can see that agitator in the center of it. So you see what you would be dealing with. Maybe the hand crank model might be a little bit better, a little bit smoother, because you have your hands on it and your weight on it. So I purchased this laundry spinner from Amazon. It's 3,200 RPM, so it's pretty fast. It's 300 watts, so it doesn't use a lot of energy. And it's stainless steel inside. It has a 5-minute timer that you can use for it, so you can be hands-free for a period of time. At the time that we purchased it, it was $140, and they're running about $160 now. Here's the insides of it, and I did bring it today, and I can do a little demonstration for you. It's up here. But on the inside, there's a spin disc, that plastic piece, that helps level the contents of the spinner. The inside is stainless steel, and then the lever and lid work together. When you pull that lever up, it locks the lid. And then when you pull and starts the machine, when you pull that lever down, it stops the machine, although it might still be rotating. So you need a button to slow down the spinner and to pop that lid. And then it has a floor drain that is towards the front of the machine, so you can visualize how much water is coming out. You might not want to go that full 5 minutes. We usually don't. Along with the spinner, because it is a long cylindrical machine, we use mesh produce bags. So mine are 12 by 20. I couldn't find them quite that large, but you can find a wide selection of these on Amazon. They are food safe produce bags. They have an open enough mesh to them that the water will come out through there. And this is a picture of our setup. So my husband Larry does most of our washing, and we have an employee and myself, we do most of the harvesting, and he's stationed in the wash pack. But you can see that we do a triple rinse. Then at the end there's a colander. That brown colander is inside a bucket, so it drains a little bit of the water off at first. And then what we'll do is we'll dump it out on that drain board, the lettuce after it comes out of the spinner, and then we bag it, weigh it, log it into our phones as to the amount. Now this was going to be a video, but it's not. So this is actual lettuce going into the spinner. You can do as much or as little as you want, as long as you put that plastic leveler in there with it. We will pack 2 large bags full of lettuce and put that in the spinner, and we will get about between 14 and 16 bags of lettuce. Our lettuce is about 6 ounces. And then it would run for a period of time, or you would choose to stop it. And that's our setup for the drain, and we brought that here. And then the end product is going to look like this, a nice fluffy lettuce. And we'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you right now. Now I have it hooked up to a Jackery. It's a 1,000 watt Jackery. My son did a calculation that we could run that spinner 45 times on that Jackery. So you could probably use a smaller one, and it's small enough that you can move it anywhere on your farm. So I'll go ahead and show that to you.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to take maybe 2 questions or do you want to wait till the end for that?
No, what?
Does anyone have any like immediate questions about this panda spinner? Okay, let's move on to Dusty Gossett.
Hello, I'm Dusty Gossett from Gossett Farms, and we farm in Cave City. We focus on soil health. You have to bear with me. It's the first time I've ever done any public speaking. I'm Dusty Gossett. I'm from Cave City, Kentucky. We have a couple hundred acres of organic row crop and do grass-finished beef, raising and direct marketing. And we focus on soil health to raise healthier crops, to raise healthier animals, to make healthier people. Today I want to talk about feeding apple cider vinegar and sea salt to livestock. We need to think about getting the toxins out and the minerals in our cattle to make them healthier. You can change your epigenetics to get your livestock to express more of the genetics that they already have. Epigenetics is just your air and the water, your grass, your minerals. There ain't a whole lot we can do about changing the air, but we can do quite a bit to change the other things. It takes roughly 120 days to change out all the red blood cells in an animal. So, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but with the Redmond sea salt and Redmond conditioner and apple cider vinegar, you can start to get the toxins out and get more of the minerals in. You can also use C90 and Kansas Gray is another kind of sea salt. I like the Redmonds or the Kansas Gray because it's from ancient seabed, so it don't have as many contaminants in it. The C90 is good, but it's about double the price. It does have less sodium and a few more minerals. Most animals are acidic, which equates to more disease, more parasites, and that equals less nutrient and mineral absorption. Using these methods, you can raise the pH of your animals, which is going to be less disease, less parasites, and more absorption of the minerals and nutrients. And over time, you can build resistance to disease and parasites. The problem with most all mixed minerals that we feed today that come from co-ops or wherever, all the individual ingredients come from China and then they're mixed here, and most of them individual ingredients are contaminated with heavy metals like cadmium, lead, arsenic, mercury. And one of the big ones is cadmium. Cadmium toxicity messes up the animal's ability to regulate their internal body temperature, making them too hot in the summertime, too cold in the wintertime. One way you can identify this in your animals is there's a slow hump from their shoulders back to their hook bones, and this will kind of be your miner's canary. You know, if you have a couple that's showing this, you know you have some toxic problems. Selenium will detox the heavy metals before it's available to be used by the body, or before the selenium can be used by the body. So that's where the Redmond conditioner comes in. It's a volcanic clay. It detoxifies them and helps raise their pH. And one way you can tell if you have enough selenium in your herd is newborn calves. If your navel cords are over 2 inches long, you more than likely have enough selenium. I've been using this protocol for roughly 2 years, and I had calves this past year being born, that had navel cords dragging the ground. Like I've never seen that before at all. So it does work. The conditioner will also help with more tender meat. It has a lot of added calcium in it, and that will help break down the connective tissue when the animal's hanging after it's butchered. To make the sea salt and the conditioner work, you're going to have to entice it, and some people use cracked corn, soybean meal. I do grass finishing, so I prefer organic cane sugar. And now I get by with about 10 pounds per 50 pounds, 10 pounds of sugar per 50-pound bag of salt or conditioner. When you first start out, you might have to use a little more, to get the animals interested in it. The conditioner's kind of got a bitter taste, but after they realize that it's doing something for them, they'll continue to consume it. On the sea salt, you want, to get enough minerals in, you want to get 5 to 7 ounces per head per day. And without an enticer, they're not going to consume that much because of the sodium content. And then 3 to 4 ounces a day on the conditioner. And moving on to the apple cider vinegar, it's acidic, but it's like lemons or anything else in the body. It turns alkaline and going to raise the pH. And then it has digestive enzymes for breaking down the feed. It's the kind that I feed is from Golden Valley Vinegar. It's made with whole apples. It's not pasteurized, and it's not watered down. It's 6%. It'll raise the butter fat and lower somatic cell count in dairy cattle, which is easy to measure in the milk. It'll control internal, external parasites, and I try to get a lot of it in my animals I'm finishing before slaughter. But enticing it with sugar, it'll make more tender, more flavorful meat. And something else to think about with the Redmond's products, they make a SR50 and a SR65, which is a blend of the salt and the conditioner, using it for spreading on your pastures. The conditioner will tie up the toxins that's in the ground, and then the sea salt will, the sodium will stimulate the biology, which, it sounds crazy spreading salt on your ground, but it works. It'll raise your CEC level so you can hold more nutrients. And then you're getting all the minerals from the sea salt in your grass. And then when your animals are consuming more nutrient-dense grass and getting the minerals through your grass, it's a lot more bioavailable, to where like the sea salt by itself is like 15 to 20% available. You can make a mineral water, which Steve Campbell, the guy, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Steve Campbell or not. He's the guy I sell the apple cider vinegar for. And he's got a lot of videos on YouTube, but he makes a mineral water using a tea bag, like a grass sack or a nylon feed sack, and hanging, putting sea salt in it and hanging it in your water. He's got some good videos on YouTube to explain that. But you can, like if you have pink eye trouble, you can do that and get a lot more minerals in them a lot quicker and take care of pink eye, when you have the problem, instead of, if you're not being proactive about it. And in the mineral water, it's 40 to 50% bioavailable. So, the end goal is to get your pastures to where they're healthy enough. You can get a lot of this from your grass. But all these methods, help get you there and get you over the hump when you get started. And I think that's about it.
Yes, please. You all may have noticed that Dusty passed around a couple of handouts that were about the products that he has. Does anyone have any questions about his methods or the things that he talked about?
So you talked about mixing it in, making a mix. Are you putting the conditioner and the salt together with the apple cider vinegar all in one mix, or are you feeding each one individually?
I think so. I don't know. I ain't close enough. The vinegar, I've started feeding it free choice, and I mix a pound of vinegar per gallon of, a pound of salt per gallon of vinegar, because they'll overconsume the vinegar once they get to liking it, and then the salt will help it keep from freezing in the wintertime. And some people do feed the salt and the conditioner in a mix, but I feed it separate, and I use them 3-compartment mineral feeders, and just mix each one with some sugar, and feed it that way.
Does anyone else have a question with livestock?
And Steve Campbell, the guy that's taught me a lot of this, my kind of a mentor. He's got a lot of videos on YouTube and does some podcasts. You can go on YouTube and find out all this stuff.
All right. Thank you, Dusty. Appreciate it. Next, we have Mr. Ken Marks.
I'm Ken Marks with Floydsview Farm in Louisville, Kentucky. So I have a small, diverse vegetable production in Louisville, and I sell strictly through farmers markets. Today we're going to talk about low tunnels. So some of the benefits of low tunnels: season extension, integrated pest management, improved plant production, improved plant health, reduced plant stress. It modifies the microenvironment, increases temperatures, reduces light intensity, and blocks wind. One thing that I use it for, I call it season compression. Since my market runs from the second week of May through the end of September, I need to get product there day one through the end of the period. If I had a longer season, it would not probably be so important for me. So I'm trying to get double crops in and make sure they cure for like winter squash and things like that, so I get them there by September. So the tunnel consists of 3 components: the structure, the coverings, and the anchors. The structure, this is a material list for, these are 30-inch beds, 300 or 100 feet long. So 11 half-inch conduits, 5 feet long, so a 10-foot stick cut in half. 22 rebar, 3/8 diameter, about 12 inches long. 22 half-inch flat washers. Red vinyl caps to put on the rebar. Trust me, you'll be tripping over these things. You don't want to fall on them. So. Coverings, there's a lot of different things you can use out there, from plastic to the remade type stuff. 7-foot 3/16 bungee cord, and the anchors, the two steel side staples for the end anchor walls. Tools required, really not much. You need some type of way to cut the rebar in your in your conduit. You need a 30-inch hoop bender, vise and hammer to bend your washers, scissors for cutting your row cover, and bungee cord. Here's my homemade hoop bender, just made out of wood. So you can look on YouTube, you can see all kinds of ways to do hoop bending. So there's my components there, with my stakes on the right and all the components there on the left. So cost for a 100-foot bed, I have that broken down there, but it's about $65 for a 100-foot bed, which is about 26 cents a square foot. On the commercial systems out there that are similar to this, it'll run you roughly twice that. I'm going to show you here on installation how this
The
works.
slow tunnel system consists of really 4 pieces. You have your ground rods, your hoops, your bungee cords to secure your cover with, and your cover. First I'll place all my ground supports, the hoops, and then the cover, and then I'll come back and put on the bungee cords.
I'm doing this in the greenhouse because it was cold out there. So So obviously in the greenhouse you don't need to have this elaborate system, since you have no wind or anything like this. I'm spacing these at roughly 10 feet. So for me, I found wind, I've never had an issue, even though I've had, say, 40, 50 mile an hour winds on occasion, not blowing the cover off. I have had the instance where I did not have the ends anchored well, that it would pull the end anchor out and loosen up the cover. So this hoop just slides over top of that conduit, just slides over top of that rebar. So you'll place those hoops on those rebar you just stuck in the ground. Also, I leave my end rebar in year round. They mark the 4 corners of my bed. Sometimes I'll leave them in row, just depending on kind of what's going on. So this system is also similar. Never Sink Farm sells a system kind of similar to this, use the same product. I think Growers Co. out of California has another system that's similar, and I believe there's one other one out there. Also on the row cover, I would recommend 7 foot wide on the row cover, so that you have enough row cover that drapes down against the soil. So try to keep any pests from entering the inside your protected culture there. So how this works is similar if you've seen on at least Farmers Friends hoop houses, where they pull the string over top of so you can pull up and down the sides of your greenhouse. So this kind of works similar to that system. So you can see here, I'm going to go through and hook my bungee cords around those and pull that over top of those hoops. I think here I'm staking down the end cover, hold it tight and stake down the cover. I usually put a knot in them too, because I found that if I don't put a knot in there, if it's a high wind, it can pull it back through those spades top. But you can do it kind of any way you feel like anchoring those. No. So I'll just pull it up. I'll show you 1 second here, or well, on the next video, that how you can work on in the row and all that. You get the idea here, so I'll go on to the next one.
The operation is simple.
So that you can see here, this is all installed. So when you go to use it, you can just pull up the sides and they'll just stay in place.
Pull the fabric up.
Pollinization. Well, it depends on what all you're doing, right? So if I'm doing brassicas, especially for pest protection, you don't ever have to pull it up. They're not pollinated. Typically on things that are pollinated, I'll take that off when, like squash. So I'll do squash to plant those early, get some heat BTUs into the ground so they grow faster. So. I have some of the anchors here if anybody wants to come up and see those afterwards. I really do recommend that you buy those vinyl covers to stick on there. Rebar is kind of nasty if you fall on it, so for sure.
Are there any questions for Ken in his presentation? Okay, I'm going to go to you first. I can get around here.
I didn't catch what the elastics were fastening to.
So there's a washer that slides onto that. So that will just hold. That's how it works. So it just comes right off. So. And it just locks in place when you put tension on it. So.
Are you able to reuse your row covers? And if so, how long, like multiple years?
That depends on how lazy I get in June and whether I put them up in a timely manner or not. But a couple years, several years. Those are fairly lightweight. I think those are only like 3/4 ounce. They're not the really heavy frost protection mats. So.
Very cool, thank you.
Is there anyone else with questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Ken. Next, we have Jackson Rolett. You.
This thing to work. That's me. That's a giant carrot. So I'm here today on behalf of all of my farm trials and tribulations with regards to caterpillar tunnels. So kind of building off of what he was talking about. So my farm hack is scissor doors. This is something that I've been playing with for several years, and well, you can see kind of the scale of my garden there. That's about ½ acre in production. Exactly, and we've got those 4 caterpillar tunnels in the back. We'll talk a little bit about why I've designed the caterpillar tunnels or tinkered with them in the way that I have. But those caterpillar tunnels you see there, I have picked them out of the top of that tree line before. So this is a lot of hard-won experience. I've went through a lot of iterations of caterpillar tunnels, and I made a few modifications that I think will serve you well. So these are the scissor doors that we're going to be talking about. I'm finding online a lot of pre-packaged Caterpillar end wall kits that are very expensive. And I thought I can do that a lot cheaper. one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of the low-tech stuff on this half acre is because I'm not investing a lot of money into it. I'm also farming or living away from this farm, so it also needs to be something that I'm not checking on every day. So it has to be low-tech, low-cost, and resilient, which is like a magical trifecta, but we're doing the best we can. A couple of things you'll notice about this, I won't talk too much about it. You see I've taken the purlin end strap, so those are solid purlins across there, and then we've taken the end strap that a lot of these kits come with and anchored it to the ground with ground anchors. So that's giving us not only internal wind bracing protection, but external wind bracing protection, because this is where the prevailing winds are coming from. So they're hitting these doors head on. So I wanted to give some resistance from the outside to keep those tunnel ends from pushing in. And then you can see the scissor doors, when they're closed, they don't get in the way of that external protection. The only thing that I don't like about this, not only does it not shed wind, but mowing around that is a little difficult, so we have to get the trimmer out to do so. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this. This setup right here has sustained 70-mile-an-hour gusts. Anything more than that, I don't think my issue is going to be with my end wall. That's another view of it. That's with them open. You're going to have some mechanism to hold the doors open, but you can see how they're flush. Let's see what else I have here. There's another example. Let's get into, I even forget what slides that I put up here. So that's how they're connected. So that's a center ridge pole that comes extended out of the end bow. We only leave about 4 inches of that. And then those are 2 brace bands that are bolted through. We just took some fence top rail and drilled with a metal bit through the end of it, and then inserted the brace band through the top and bolted it in. And then we put the bolt, or put the Tech screw on the very end just to keep that from working back out. But that Tech screw is enough to hold that on there. And that's a view from the underside. You can see how they swing apart, and then that external wind brace can slide right between the middle of those two whenever they're closed. And that's what it looks like closed. One of the reasons, I don't know how to, let's see if I can back up with this. One of the reasons why I like, so let's talk about this right here, why I like scissor doors. I can ventilate the front and the back of this tunnel completely. I can get full airflow through there that you're not going to be able to get if you just have a man door there. One of the reasons why my tunnels are 50 feet long is at 50 feet, I do not get dead zones in the middle of those tunnels. So when I had 100-foot long tunnels, I was seeing disease and fungal pressure start on the interior of the tunnel and spread outward. Even when I didn't have end walls, you would get dead space in the middle of those tunnels. When you shorten them to 50 feet, so all of my bed design is 50 feet lengths, I get full airflow through the tunnel. I don't get extremely hot spaces inside the center of the tunnel. I get full ventilation, and I don't have to raise or lower these side walls at any point during the year, not when it's hot, not when it's cold. So one of the reasons why I went with scissor doors is I can get full ventilation when I open both sides of those tunnels up. Again, I'm living, not where I'm growing, so I need to have solutions that I can kind of set and forget. Another thing that I've noticed with this past winter is I will leave the front ends of those from the prevailing winds closed to stop the wind from blowing through the tunnels, and I will leave the back ends open. So that way I don't have to be there at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning to vent the tunnels or to open the doors. I can leave the backs open, but they're still going to heat up fast enough in the morning time. They're going to vent so that I'm not having to open the tunnels, but I'm still getting a lot of extra radiant heat inside of that tunnel to keep things, really to thaw things out after they've frozen. So that's kind of my set it and forget it method right now for being away from the farm, but still maximizing the amount of thermal protection that I have there. Another reason why I like these is getting equipment into and out of the tunnel as opposed to having a regular door there. you can just walk right into that. A note about this is my bed spacing is 5 foot on center, so I have 3 beds in that caterpillar tunnel as opposed to the traditional 4 or more. One of the reasons why that is, I think I have a picture of it later on, is to anchor those doors to the ground, you have to have a center post in the bottom of that tunnel. I don't want that in a walkway. That's at the end of a bed, so that it's not so much of a tripping hazard. I'm not having to move a wheelbarrow over it or walk over that. That's in the center of a bed. That's not a space that we're occupying with our feet very often. So I can get into and out of that tunnel with the BCS, with harvest crates, without having to do much navigating. Let's see what I've got next. So why scissor doors? So like I said, I didn't put up the other prices of what the Farmer's Friend or some of the other companies are selling end walls for, but I can do an entire tunnel for $80. I believe some of the ones I was seeing online were several $100s per tunnel. You can see that's all of the parts. That's the brace bends, the top rail, the center height of the center of the tunnel was 8 feet 6 inches. So that's the length that I needed to get from the top to the ground. And these are Farmer's Friend tunnels. These are the 14-foot Pro kits. So again, they're not cheap, and I didn't want to have to pick any other ones out of the tree line again. So you don't need very much. You don't need any special tools to put them together. It's stuff that you probably already got laying around your farm. And with 2 people, it takes us about 60 minutes per end wall. We did all 8 of those end walls in a day. Took us a few minutes to figure out how to do it efficiently. So it's a 12%, there we go, I do have it. Compared to the zipper walls, which have no sort of reinforcing structure for the end wall, it's 12% of the cost of what Farmer's Friend is charging for a zipper wall. Here's a great how-to guide, and this is what I went off of to be able to build this. So buried on Johnny's website, this is a years-old PDF. This is exactly what I followed, and it's a great step-by-step instruction on how to build these. Another thing to note, if you're using a Farmer's Friend tunnel kit, you've already got enough plastic that they supply with those to do the end walls, because they're assuming that you're going to tie them into the little conical shaped knots at the end. Other considerations. So it's flexible. It's easy to install and uninstall. I have farmed on a lot of farms and built a lot of caterpillar tunnels, and I don't know if these need to move or not. And I don't want to go through all of the trouble of installing a really elaborate and expensive end wall if I'm going to have to pick these up and move them. So it's very fast and very easy to move around if you need to. We went over the ventilation. You can completely ventilate your tunnels. You can get perfect airflow through there. And then, just watch that ground post position. But you can see, to close them, I've drilled a hole through all 3 pieces of pipe. And that pipe that's going in the ground, I would bury that at least 18 inches, if not 2 feet, because you don't want that pipe to be able to move. You might even want to put a piece of rebar inside of that to make sure that that stays stable, because it's when you get play in the structure, that's where you really start to get wind damage. And then having that centered on a bed instead of an aisleway, it's going to make it a lot safer when entering and exiting the tunnel. And that's it. Any questions over scissor doors? Yes?
I'm really confused where the end wall plastic went.
That was just the last one that I did not do. So her question was, where was the end wall plastic when it opened? So I was actually in the middle of putting these on here when Shannon asked me to do a presentation on these. So I just didn't get to putting that plastic on, but that's what it would look like open. The one thing you're going to have to get creative with was how you want to anchor those doors when they're open. I just use a set of short bungee straps, and you do have to poke a small hole and the plastic on the outside of that bow, but you can just wrap it with a bungee cord and those doors will hang open. But I thought that would be the easiest way to illustrate sort of the space that you're working with when it's open. If we go back, the PDF has a better illustration of what that looks like. You can see up there, they've just got bungee straps holding that door open. It also really helps if you have wind braces to keep that from sliding around. So I do it around the brace band that's on the wind braces, just to make sure that it doesn't wiggle or jar loose if I'm not there, because I'm often not there. Other questions? How did I attach the plastic to the poles? So there are these little white clips that you can get from Johnny's. They sell them in different diameters based on the, where is that? Based on the diameter of the pipe that you're working with. You can see the little white clips there. Thank you for reminding me of that. I went with 5 clips on each post. I would probably do 7, especially around, I would put them closer together on the bottom of the pipe. Occasionally that bottom one will work out. And I'll have to re-clip it. So I will probably put one in between that bottom rung and then the next one up. So you're looking at a minimum 5 clips per pole. So that would be 20 clips per tunnel, which is two packages that they sell those in. Any other questions? All right.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I think we are just about on time. We do have a few minutes left. I don't know if anybody has any questions for the previous panelist or anything they want to discuss. We also have on the table, you have your cards. If you could please fill out the cards and tell us what you thought about today's session, what you'd like to see in future sessions. But Cindy has a question.
Is there a lot of condensation inside these? Or are they double walled down the side?
So she asked about the condensation. I don't get a lot of condensation. They're not double walled, it's a single layer, and I'm doing row cover on the inside. One of the reasons I don't get a lot of condensation is I often leave the back side of these tunnels, those doors open, and that's so that I'm constantly getting ventilation, because I'm often not able to get there first thing in the day. So if it's very hot, or if it gets to be very sunny, even on a cold day, and I can't get there to open them, it'll get too hot in there for the produce that's in there. So I will usually err on the side of leaving it open and let it get cold, and then I'm also getting that warm air out so that it's not, I'm not having any moisture disease issues because of that. Of the total cost of the Farmer's Friend Tunnel Kit. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head because they keep getting more expensive. I want to say each of those 50-foot tunnels, including all of the things that I have done to it, are probably floating around $2,000 a kit for 50 feet by 14 feet.
I have a question about your anchors that you put in the ground. Which earth anchors are you using? I think I had asked you this when we were at your farm, but I forget. Like to stabilize that and hold it to the ground.
Yeah, I guess you're asking about the anchors that are holding that rope. They are earth augers. I just picked them up from Lowe's. They're giant and they're red. Those posts are probably 2 feet in the ground. They're quite long. One thing that I might recommend, and if I had to go back and do this again, the one thing that I would change, you can get earth augers where the clip on the bottom lays flat when you're not using it, and then I would make that strap hooked to like a heavy-duty carabiner so that I could unclip them and mow and then reclip them back. Just because this is on leased land and it's in a very public space, we spend a lot of time mowing and weed eating. And just being able to unclip them and run over that with the mower, I think would be well worth taking the time to clip it, unclip it.
Cindy. Got me running, girl.
What's the typical life of the plastic on one of these? Or how often do you change it to make sure that you don't end up with a ripped or torn plastic?
I feel like Vanna White.
The typical lifespan on these Farmers Friend plastics they're 6 mil treated plastic, and they should last about 4 years. Caveat here, I've never farmed in the same place for more than 4 years, so I don't experientially know, and by the time I get to that point, one of these things ends up in a tree. So hopefully, I'm really happy with this. Again, last year, these tunnels got literally blown away by a tornado, and I went back and rebuilt them. So I've been through this several times, and I'm happy with this. It sustained about 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and I didn't have anything move. There wasn't, I needed to readjust or fix or push or pull anything, so.
Have you used any rain catchment off the sides or any way of conserving some of the water so you can move it inside?
I'll meet you halfway. I have not used any, I've not figured out a way to do rain catchment just because the sides are not even. You could do something, you start putting hip boards on and then you can attach a gutter system to it. You could. I've not gotten that far yet. One thing I will say, whenever you sort of shotgun these tunnels this way, you need to be aware of what happens to the water and the snow between the tunnels. And so what we did is we have landscape fabric between each of the tunnels because I don't like weeding between tunnels. But on the last one, we did bury some drainage tile underneath that row fabric because that's a very low spot, and I don't want water pooling right there between the tunnels. So you can bury tile to move water and direct it, but I've not tried anything as far as catching the water necessarily. So the question is mice and mole issues. Yes. Not figured that one. So in the tunnels, yes, in the wintertime, they will steal lettuce transplants and gnaw on beets. I will say outdoors, keeping the grass short, and then we maintain habitat for hawks around the perimeter. So we don't have any chickens or anything like that. I want to encourage them. I've had, from what I can tell, virtually zero mice, mole issues because we have a sort of a no man's land for those small critters, especially the small mammals because of the hawks.
What's the best way to orientate these, the doors toward north, south, east, west, northwest, or whatever?
So the question is orientation, and whatever makes sense. I don't want to change the orientation of this into an odd orientation to maximize solar gain. What I look for is just efficiency and steps. So all of my beds are oriented in a particular way because I'm trying to make movement efficient on my farm. And to me, that is the most important consideration when you're this far south. Now, if you're further up north, I think it's more of a concern. You want to orient them the proper way. And I'm sure I'm losing a few degrees of heat gain. These are oriented more north-south. Some people are going to say east-west. I don't want the first tunnel shading out all of my other tunnels. So that's another reason you might not want to put them this close running east-west, is you're going to get a lot of light in that first tunnel, but then all the subsequent ones you're going to be getting an increasing amount of shade. So you're going to see decreased growth in your back tunnel and a lot of growth in your front. So these are north-south, and my primary thought was I want to make the layout of the farm make the most sense in terms of efficiency. So somebody could probably argue with me on that and saying I'm losing productivity or it's worth sacrificing the steps to orient it the best way, but that's just sort of my thought.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for our panelists.